You know, I usually have a saying after my videos: if you can't speak freely, you're simply not free. To be quite honest, I just don't feel free to speak, man. I just don't. I just don't. Because it seems that that bill that I was talking about, you know, a couple of days ago, it passed the Senate. Isn't that neat? Boy, that is so cool. Don't you feel so much safer now? I do. I certainly do.
This explains how they hide these things from the public right here. This is yesterday, November 29th. U.S. Senate defeats challenge to new detainee rules. See, these rules that I think John McCain and Lindsey Graham wanted to put into the big funding bill for the troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, I guess it is. They tacked this information in this bill, which is guaranteed to pass, that funding for the war effort that's guaranteed to pass. The Supreme Court has recently ruled the following: that there is no bar to this nation's holding one of its own citizens as an enemy combatant. This is the Supreme Court speaking, said Democratic Senator Carl Levin. Levin, who chairs the Senate Armed Services Committee, said the proposed rules would not short-circuit the administration's use of civilian trials for suspected terrorists and denied they would cripple civil liberties. Oh, he did? He denied that they would cripple civil liberties? Oh, okay, I guess I feel all right about that if Carl Levin says it's all right. These are not failures of laws. These are not failures of procedures. These are failures of imperfect men and women and bloated bureaucracies. No amount of liberty sacrificed on the altar of the state will ever change that, he said. Republican Representative Lindsey Graham, who voted against Udall's amendment, accused Obama of over-relying on the FBI and other civilian institutions in fighting suspected terrorists. America is part of the battlefield. We firmly believe the war is coming back home, he said. We're fighting a war, not a crime. The White House 2 weeks ago warned that Obama would veto the bill, and the FBI, the Pentagon, and the Director of National Intelligence have all criticized the legislation. Well, let's hope they'll save this, because obviously the Senate has decided that this is the way to go. Because they tacked this on the bill, and yesterday, the 29th, they had a vote, and they voted here. Let's see. They voted by a 37-61 margin. Senators defeated an attempt to strip the proposed regulations from a vast annual spending bill that has yet to pass, but it is a sure thing because it affects the troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. Guaranteed to pass. So there was a challenge, and the senators defeated an attempt to strip these proposed regulations, the regulations that would allow them to arrest and detain U.S. citizens without any evidence, without any trial, without any hearings, without any witnesses. They can just swoop in and pick you up and take you away, and they don't have to explain to anyone except just to say that you were a threat to national security.
Unreal, man.
My question would be, under the provisions, would it be possible that an American citizen then could be declared an enemy combatant and sent to Guantanamo Bay and detained indefinitely?
I think that as long as that individual, no matter who they are, if they pose a threat to the security of the United States of America, should not be allowed to continue that threat. And I think that's the majority of American public opinion, especially in light of the facts that I continue to repeat to the senator from Kentucky. 27% of detainees who were released got back in the fight and were responsible for the deaths of Americans. We need to take every step necessary to prevent that from happening. That's for the safety and security of the men and women who are out there putting their lives on the line in our armed services. Mr. President, I suggest the absence of a quorum, or yield the floor.
Let's check those facts, Senator. Let's just take a look here. Let's see. Even according to the U.S. government's own figures, McCain is grossly exaggerating the number. In December 2010, Director of National Intelligence James Clapper claimed that 13.5% of former Guantanamo detainees are confirmed to have returned to the battlefield. Yet even that figure was proven to be an outright fraud. In January 2011, the New American Foundation, a nonpartisan public policy think tank, released a report contradicting Clapper's alarmist claims. The report found that if the Pentagon released names can be believed, at best only 6% of tortured and released detainees found their way back to the battlefield. Only 6% of tortured and released detainees found their way back to the battlefield. Clearly, the idea of indefinitely detaining American citizens in military prisons on the suspicion of being a threat to U.S. security is a gross violation of the principles on which America was founded. But what's worse is justifying such tyranny with outright lies and distortion. Even more disgusting is McCain and other entrenched politicians know this, and yet they continue their wickedness against the American people and the Constitution. Let me read you something, Senator. It's from the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly described the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. And now I realize you guys have gone a little bit overboard with the Patriot Act, but please, don't you think this is going just a little bit too far, Senator? The ability to round up citizens at will with no cause or evidence?